Hi, Mia.
Hi.
We're super glad to have you as the first guest on the Genius Leadership podcast. And to be honest, it's a huge honor for me. And I'm very happy that I will be able to get you to the international audience and share a bit of your extremely broad and amazing knowledge that you are having for the Nordic. You keep it as a secret for the little Nordic market.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much for that presentation. I'm humbled and very proud.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun conversation, I'm sure. So I
Yes.
want to make it clear with the definitions, first of all, so that none of us or our audience are confused when we're talking about things. And some things may be obvious for you and me because we work with leadership, but maybe someone else has a different picture of what it is. So the first question is,
Yes.
what is leadership and who is a leader for you?
Oh, I think leadership. Oh, good question. I wished I had prepared, with this like one-liner of everything. But a
It can
leader
be
is
several.
a person that's taking responsible for the task and the people, uh, to get people to be their very best, to reach as high as they can. So to be a good leader doesn't necessarily mean that you are like people know that you even exist.
Mhm.
So it's like, what do you say in Swedish? In Swedish, I would have said, alltså att chefskap är en position, medan ledarskap är liksom en relation,
Mm.
skulle jag kanske ha sagt. So if you like managing something, it's like a task, and leadership is like communication and relations, I would
Mhm.
say.
Okay,
Does
so
that
it's a
make
lot
sense?
about, absolutely. And we'll dig deeper into some things here because I'm pretty sure we'll develop that into
Yeah,
further. But
but to be
as
a
you say, it's
leader,
not a
you
position.
should like take that responsible, and be humble and proud about it. But it doesn't. You have to work on it. It's like it's like what do you say in English? It's a competence. You cannot, you just don't have it or not have it. You have to like, it's like stamina. You have to exercise if you want to be strong. So you have to work on your leadership if you want to be a good leader.
Mm, great. And here I come to the question that I thought of bringing up later, but you already tapped into that it is a skill that people can train.
Yes.
So can it be that are there people among billions of people on the planet who can by no means become a good leader?
uh, if you ask me if everybody has the possibility to be a good leader, I would say no,
Mm.
because everybody isn't like interested in other people. So if you don't have an interest in other people, no, you cannot be the best leader you can be. You can be in charge of things, but a leadership is something very different. So the answer is no. But can everybody be better than they are just right now? Then the answer is yes.
Mm. I love that. It brings this quite important point that quite a lot of us are missing in the conversation about leadership, that you need to be interested in leading others. It looks
Yes, and
like
you
you're
have to
obvious.
also, yeah, but you also have to have a really strong self leadership to start with, because otherwise you don't have a clue what your reactions are. Because if you're like not secure, you're going to feel threatened when the people you are leading become smarter and better than you, and they are supposed to be, because your job is just to lead them,
Mm,
not to
okay.
be best.
Yeah, that's perfect. And you again come into one of the questions that I wanted to discuss with you. You talk so much about self-leadership. So you
Yes.
are actually working with leaders, the top people in Sweden, right? And also in
Yeah.
some other Scandinavian markets. And still it sounds like you're working a lot on how they can lead themselves first and foremost, and only then
Yeah.
leading other people.
Mm.
Why is it so important with
Because
self-leadership?
it starts and ends with you. We are the best, we have, and the worst enemy as well in the same person. So you have to know every little detail about yourself, your strengths and your weaknesses. And you have to understand when you are like being, afraid or angry or irritated or whatever it is, you have to understand what's my part in this, so you just don't project it on the people you are leading or feeling like a victim or whatever. So you always have to have, like, I would say, I don't have the statistics on this, but I would say like 60-70% of leadership is ourselves. Because if I have a bad day, it's totally gonna affect the people I'm leading if I don't put the bad energy inside me or get rid of it, because energy, it's like contagious. It affects everybody. So we have to understand that our responsibility is to have a strong, secure, and also methods for self-leadership.
Mm. Yeah, wow, that sounds like quite a lot. 60-70% of your success
Yeah,
as a
and I
leader.
don't have any
Yeah, yeah.
proof of that. That's just, because when I sit with these people that I have the, privilege of coaching, because I've been doing this for a really long time, and they are super smart, and they have, really high level jobs, and they are responsible for very, very, very many people. But when we are sitting there, we are always talking about, okay, you're going to have this conversation with that person. How are you going to, prepare yourself? And of course, that depends on who you are as a leader, what strengths you have, and also, the relation with like power. If you have like power over another person, you have to take that in consideration when you are like prepare yourself. So I would say, we always have to understand what effect we have on the people that we are, leading and communicating with, and that starts with ourselves. So we have to have like a clear picture of who am I and how does other people see me.
Yeah, perfect.
So
And
yeah, leadership is the foundation of everything.
and I'm a huge promoter of that as well. And actually, I am promoting it because I learned it on my own experience, thanks to you, Mia, because of your books and your lectures and the podcasts of yours. The self-development journey and self-leadership journey has been amazing. And I see the results of that, how that really affects me in the interactions with the other people. So I truly believe in this, that leadership and every relationship starts with us. And of course, it's always a two-way communication and two-way street, so to say. But we need to be aware of what's on our side of that street and what.
And also we have to like have methods in how to train it. And daily reflection is the best method I've tried. And to put like 5-10 minutes every day to reflect on the questions: what wasn't so good today, and what lesson did I learn, and what was good today, and also what I need help with. If you have like those 3 questions, then you're okay. And it doesn't have to take more like 5-7 minutes every day just to like. And also because it's not dangerous for us to be in a stressful situation or work a lot of, have a lot of work over us. But the thing that's not good for us if we don't like ever reload or recover. So we have to like, get the energy back. And just to put a couple of minutes to reflect on the daily reflection, that gives you not only the feeling of power, but also like it's like your land. It's like you're okay. What do I take for? And also there is studies about this. I have it on my website. I think they did this in United States. They took a call center and they let the people there reflect after work. The 15 last minutes of the day, they had to ask what wasn't so good today, what lesson did I learn, and what was good today. And they could measure that only after 10 days, they were like 23% more efficient in their work. So it's like you can start at the start of a marathon run, and you can like try, maybe I have it in my body, or you can prepare before. It's still going to be the same length of the marathon run, but if you are prepared, then the chances you have to do a really good run is going to be so much higher. So it's not rocket science, it's like common sense, but we cannot read about it in a book and think that it has been a change in us. From books we get like methods, and we can have like insights, and wow, yeah, that's correct. But if we want change, we have to exercise.
And that's what I love. You've given this example of someone coming to you with a critique about like, do you mean, Mia, that me, by reading your books, will be the best at self-leadership? And you're like, do you buy cookbooks and you become a good cook? No.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to practice.
Or do you
and
get
implement.
like a cake from the cookbook? No, you have to, do the work yourself. You can be, it's like inspiration and recipes to read a book, but the work we have to do ourselves. But it works, because if we work it, it's worth it because it works. But we cannot just sit here and read about how to be like strong. We have to go to the gym if it's concerning our body, and if it's self-leadership and leadership, we have to do the work. Yeah.
And journaling, I can sign up under that it has been an amazing tool in my toolbox as well. And I'm doing the daily reflection according to the questions that you're mentioning. And it's sometimes different questions. So for now I have quite a tough period, and I'm skipping the first question, what I did not do so well, because I know that I'll just start beating myself up because I am a bit more on the margins, so to say.
Yes.
I skip that one, and I just do the positive ones.
And that's the good thing, because if we do this daily reflection, we are on top of what our needs are right now, because our needs aren't the same all the time. In February, our lives looked totally different. And also this first wave of Corona affected us, but the second wave affected us in another way. So what you and me need right now isn't necessarily the same, but it's not necessarily the same what I and you needed just a couple of weeks ago. But if we every day reflect on it, then you feel it. Then you feel like, no, I'm vulnerable now. So I'm not going to ask myself what wasn't so good today, because I know that inside me, I have a strong, criticist person. But other people, they don't have that problem. So we are different. But the best way to lead yourself is to do a little bit every day, because then it's so much easier. And that's the same with the people that we are leading, that we are in charge with. The more we see them, the more we meet them, the better leader we can be.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also interesting to see. Yeah, sorry.
No, sorry, I was just blah, blah, blah.
That's good. We need to do blah, blah, blah sometimes. I was just wanted to say that I reflect on what my clients are struggling with when I ask them to do the journaling and daily reflection. And it's different for different people. For some people, the most difficult question is, what did I do well today? For some others, it's help. What do I need help with? They're like, I don't need any help. I'm fine. I'll manage my life. And it takes some time to practice them and teach them that, okay, it's not about asking for help others necessarily. It might be asking yourself, and then we need to tap into the goals and so on. So it is a process, and it's not super obvious, and it's not working the same way for everyone. So I actually give your book to my clients, the self-esteem now. I actually need to order a new bunch because those are over. and we go through that, and I'm like, okay, now you read it. What have you understood? What has landed? And what are your reflections? And it's totally different from different people.
Yes.
It's again the same thing as with the recipe book. You can read the recipe, but then you imagine this process in your head, how you will cook it in your kitchen. And because you are you and your kitchen is your kitchen, it might be a totally different process. And it's the same with the reflection.
Yeah. And it depends on your personality, but it also depends a lot about your history, your upbringing, and what people have said to you when you were growing up. So just, this how we see things, asking for help is one of those things. People that have been, growing up with parents or other people saying to them, like, when you need to ask for help, you're like weak. Of course, it's going to be a problem for them. So those people we have to teach that asking for help, to have the bravery enough to be vulnerable and say, I need help, is like the strongest thing you can do. So those people we have to, get them to understand that this is strength, this is smartness, because nobody is ever going to be, fulfilled with what they can live. It's like we can always learn. We're not machines. We are like people, and we have emotions, and we have ambitions, and we have ego, and all these things can either be with us or against us. So just to see, for me, that was a problem with what did I do good, because I was like, I was going to write like, I'm a good friend one day, and it felt like somebody's going to come in the room and be like, no, you're not, because we are like thinking that if I say that I'm a good friend, I have to be that 24/7. But we don't see the same with the things that are not so good. If I'm like, I was intolerant today, then it's okay if it only lasted for 5 minutes. I'm not like, can I write that down? It was just a short time. So we're like programmed wrong, most of us, especially ambitious people. So normally I say, if they want to know, do I have a strong self-leadership or not? Then I ask them, do you like have your ambition and drive from like lust and trust to succeed, of fear of doing of mistake? Because if it's like the fear that are your motor, your drive, it's gonna work, but it's not sustainable. And also, a lot of people that are like high achiever, they go around feeling like this postural syndrome. Soon they're gonna, discover that I'm not, actually supposed to work here because I'm stupid or whatever. It's not true. And a lot of the time, they're not just like. They don't, enjoy the journey, because
Exactly. It's
they're
not
like, I'm just
fun.
going to do this, and there I'm going to be happy, there I'm going to be happy. But each day now that it's going to, happen something. We don't know if we have tomorrow. We cannot be certain of that. So what's the point in being really good at something if you cannot enjoy it? So you have to have both self-confidence and also self-esteem. You have to have them both. You have to know that you can do things, but also know that my worth, it's not like dependent on the things that I do. So I have a value as a person, that's the self-esteem, and also a belief in my ability to do things. So you have to have all this together. And we're not machines. And when it's like November and it's like 2020 with all the things that are uncertain, of course we're going to be a little bit more worried and afraid. And when we are in those feelings, it's also much easier that conflict starts, because we are not tolerant enough to understand. If you're like calling me and like, Mia, then I can like, what's your problem? Why are you talking to me like that? But if I in a really good place, I'm like, everything is really good, I'm on fire, then you can be in whatever state you are. I'm not going to take it as a personal, thing to me, because I'm going to understand that that's on her. She maybe had a bad morning, or she's, afraid of something, or she's under stress. But when we are in those not so good places, we take everything as a personal, thing, and we feel that we are victims for other people's shortcomings. But that's not true. So self-leadership is to give us ourselves the things that are good for us, and that's not always the things that we want.
Yeah, it's just
So
like
it's a
with the
lot of
fitness,
responsibility.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you not always want to have the healthiest foods, maybe, but you know that they will nourish your body and help you perform at your best and so on. So yeah, it's a
And for
practice.
that, the question, what was good today, or what are you proud of? Sometimes for the most of us, it's like, yeah, I went to the gym, for example, or I, worked 1 hour more, so I get things that I have been, procrastinated for the future, and I just did it. But another day, it's even better to not go to the gym because that's what I needed that day. And, left 1 hour early, skipped one of those Teams meeting or whatever, because I needed to reload. I needed to give myself what I needed to, be really good tomorrow. So it's not like you put all the things that you've done, and if your list is the longest, then you're the best. Maybe that's what you need to work on, shorten your list and be proud of what you actually did, and just put one thing there, and the rest of the day just, waiting for yourself to be like landed or strong or whatever. Yeah. So it's like, when I give this instruction for a daily reflection, people that struggle with either one of those questions, that tells them what they need to work on. It's like, if you are a football player, you normally like the exercises that you already are good at, but what you need is to exercise the things that you're not so good at. So it's like common sense.
Exactly. It's common sense when it comes to the physical things like training, like food and so on, right? But when it comes to our mental development and our mental health, there it kind of gets fuzzier in people's head. And it's really good to have those comparisons to give the visual for people to make it easier to relate to things and understand the concepts.
Yeah. And also, that's why I say it, because I want people to see what I'm saying and to understand that it's not like complicated. But also, I would love for it to be as clear and as, what do you say, självklart, as obvious that, of course, if I want to be the best leader I can be, I have to take responsibility for my self-leadership. If I want to be, the best football player, I have to, continue to exercise. So I would like everybody to see that when you take responsibility and when you put time and effort in exercise, it's because you want to be the best you can be, not because you're bad at any way. It's like good to great. Because I can say, because sometimes people call me and they're like, oh, my boss would really need to go in a program with you. And every time I say, I'm not working with the people that needs me the most, I work with the people that want development. And it's a huge difference.
Exactly. And that's what I'm talking about as well quite often. I say that sometimes I can say no to people who want to work with me or who say that they want to work with me, because I see that they are not ready for taking their work that it needs.
Exactly.
I can be that recipe book, but you still need to make the cake yourself. And it's important to see that you see the need in yourself to develop, and you're ready to do the legwork to actually get there. Super important. So Mia, this podcast is about the tough parts of the leadership as well, because I see it as a roller coaster journey. It's not often fun, or it's not always fun. Sometimes you're like, why the hell did I actually get into this train? Why did I buy the ticket for this ride? And what do you see as the toughest parts for the leaders whom you are working with?
I would say it depends on the personality and where they're coming from. It depends on also in what branch, do you say branch, in
Industry,
what kind of work they are in. Because especially this year, it's different. A lot of people that I work with, they have like double up things to do, and the other half is like having nothing to do and maybe not know for sure that they still success. So I would say what's common from everybody is like, you need to be good at lead people in development, in unsecurity, because the only thing we know for sure is that we know nothing. So what everybody needs to be good at is, how do I lead you even though I don't have the answers to the question that you have? how can I lead you in this uncertain time of times? So I should say, like, trust is a big thing. You have to be able to get the people you are leading to know that we don't know exactly, but I'm going to choose to have faith. I'm going to believe that we are on the right way, and I feel safe that the leader I have is taking the responsibility for where we are going. I would say that's the same for everybody. If you have a lot of things to do, or maybe I don't know what's going to happen. But otherwise, it depends. A lot of people I lead, they have no problem in taking like this difficult talks, because they know that it's like it's not about me. And they don't have like this really fear of they have or ambition to be liked by everybody. It depends on what your fears are or what your ambitions are, I would say. If that's a strong one for you, that you always want to be liked, then you're maybe not going to be that great in these difficult conversations, because then you're like too self-centered and do it too much, and then you talk too much. Then you're like, oh, I'm really sorry. I really hope that I didn't need to do blah, blah, blah. You talk about yourself like for 15 minutes. And that's selfish, because if I have to tell something to you that you are not prepared to hear and you don't want to hear, you're going to be sad or whatever, shocked, angry, whatever, then that's your right to be. If I have a problem with your being, disappointed or even angry, that's on me. That's my job. That's why they pay me more. So I would say it depends. If you have this feeling like you have to be liked by everybody, then the difficult talks are going to be a little bit harder than when you can, make a difference between the things that we do and, the people we are, then it's easier. So for another person, maybe a self-made person that haven't studied on the university, sometimes they have a problem with working structured, because they are like so they just do things and they don't know actually what they do, but it's like working. So when they are supposed to lead others, they don't know actually what they are doing that's working, because they don't have like this structured way of working. I've seen that as well. And some of them are really, really, really good, but they have this like complex, you can say, that they haven't the right education, and sometimes that's against them. And sometimes you have like this then you're like more your ambition is to be perfect, and then sometimes you're not courageous enough to take a really quick decision, because sometimes you just have to take a decision and then say this was wrong. But if you're like, it has to be 100% correct, maybe you're like, I don't know, positive or negative or blah blah blah, and sometimes time ran out and it's too late to take a decision. So I would say it depends on the group and how you take responsible for the things that you as a leader need to the people that are in charge over you, because you have a board if you're like on top, or you have like mid management, then you have here and here. So it depends, I would say, but everybody has their own things to work on. And it's really important that you understand. For me, for example, I'm not good in hiring people for myself and my companies, because I'm like this. I see so much positivity, and when I read people's like
cover letter,
I'm like, oh, because I think that they can the things that I can, and also all the things that they have written down. So we have an understanding here at my company that I'm not allowed in the process anymore when we are hiring. I can help others, because then it's not about me. Then I can ask the right questions, because for an example, me and my husband are running our companies together, and we had an interview with a coach that wanted to work with us, a leadership developer, and I understood that she knew a lot of things, but she wasn't so good in to tell them. So we asked questions, but then I helped her. So I'm like, yeah, and what you wanted to say now, like, and then I just, helped her because she
Mm.
wasn't so good in communication. After a while, my husband looked at me and he's like, I'm confused now. Are you looking for a work here? Or, who is like on interview and who is like, so that's the problem for me because I see it and I'm thinking like, we can fix this. I
Mm.
have this, we can fix this.
Mm.
That's not a big problem. So then it's important that because I had a lot of strengths, of course, like everybody else, but I also had weaknesses. And my responsibility is to, compare myself with people that are different from me. So they can, be in charge of the things that I never going to be good at. Because
Mm.
some things I'm never going to be natural good at because I think it's too boring. And
Mm.
then it's like, yeah, I do the things that I'm good at, and then I have the other people doing. And of course, it's important that they think that the boring thing are not boring,
Yeah.
because otherwise I'm not a good person.
Exactly, and that's something I also learned. My business is quite new, and the first person I've hired was a virtual assistant, and I was specifically looking for someone to hire for my weaknesses. So I
Yeah.
thrive in a structured environment in a way, but so that there is
Yes.
enough freedom, but there is some structure, there is some framework to kind of push myself
Yeah.
away from, to
Yes.
draw in between. And I looked for a person who is enjoying creating structures.
Yes.
And actually, talking about the uncomfortable conversations, just yesterday we, with her, decided to discontinue our work from the new year. And it was a
Mhm.
difficult conversation, but at the same time, we are on very good terms. We just understand that the expectations are not, or like the expectations that we both have set for her job, she can't meet, and I can't afford her not meeting that. So
Ah,
it was a very open conversation, but it was still tough. And I was reflecting on that last night while doing my reflection in the journal,
yeah.
that that was a good thing about my day yesterday, because when I sat with the journal in the evening, my husband was just in the room, and I was like, what the hell is good about this day? But then my rule of thumb is to write 3 good things in that first question or second question. And I started thinking about it, and I was like, we took this conversation, we took it in a good way. We are getting out of this situation in a good relationship with her. And yes, it's tough for me because I need to find a new person, I need to decide how to do it, and so on and so forth. I was reflecting how I, as a person, would have handled that a couple of years ago, before the reflection has become a habit, before I have learned so much about myself. I would have been in a totally different space yesterday and
Yeah.
today as well. And I wouldn't be
Mm.
able to take any conversations in a healthy way. Everything would be about me personally, just as you say. So it's
Mm.
beautiful to see how this work on myself reflects or affects my relationships with the others, and how also
Yeah.
that affects my health and well-being.
Yeah, and also what you do when you work with the self leadership is like, you always want to look on you. So if I have a problem with somebody else, I ask myself 5 questions: who, why, what's threatened, what's my part in this, and what's going to be my lesson or action plan. Because then I take responsibility. Then I get all the power, instead of like just focusing on the other person's wrong. The power is within seeing what's my thing to, can I affect this? If the answer is no, then accept it.
Mm.
So always take responsibility of what's ours, and also see that everybody is strong when they are on, when everything is working. The cool thing, the hard thing is being really good when everything is like, not going the way that we want, and we have like all these tough situations. So that's a really good day that you can have a difficult call and also be in good terms. That's really good, because a lot of, hiring people that were hired, then they walk away and it's like, we don't want to talk to each other ever again. And that's really sorry, because it's like, it's only work, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
So it's like, it's easy. And if every conversation starts with you or me or everybody that's listening saying, okay, my part in this is, instead of, I'm not happy with you
Mm.
because you blah blah blah, if we start with, my part in this is this, and then stop, and then wait for the other person to, but also I could also have seen this, and I understand, and I'm also sad, but I also like, this is common, we are on the same side, we see it the same way. It's bad, but because that's also one of the people I hired many years ago, one of the bad hiring people I've done, quite of them. I think he worked for me like at least 1 year too long. And that's not good. That's what I've learned over the years, that it's going to be wrong, but the thing that we can do, we cannot be perfect in hiring, but when we see that things aren't working, then the responsibility for, take actions on that starts now. And that's the thing that decides if we are good leaders or not being perfect. It's development, not, to strive for perfection.
Yeah. And I would like to go a bit deeper here and a bit more concrete with the, for example, getting people off board, right? So when you had this wrong hire, and you say that the person has stayed with you for at least 1 year too long, I hear it a lot from the leaders who are struggling with that, being uncomfortable to fire someone and make someone unhappy, or they feel it's too personal because they feel like, okay, that's their failure. The other person should not suffer and lose the job because they didn't manage as a leader. Or it's even sometimes difficult to fire a person, like in Sweden, for example, the union protection is quite.
But for me, it's a fourth one. For me, it's also this. Sometimes I have so easy to see hope. I see we can fix this. We can work this out. So first of all, you have to see what's what's me in this. But we also have to do these things when we learn. For me, it was so long that one of the other person that works with me, she actually took me aside and she said, like, this is not okay. He is really, really bad at his job, and you give him 80% of your time. The rest of us is doing a really good job, and we have to share the remaining 20%. That's not okay. After that, I took actions. And when she said that, it was like for my ego and I'm like, oh no. But that was one of the most important, feedback meetings I've ever had. And I took actions after that. And I've learned so much, because we also have to do mistakes. We cannot be successful if we don't do mistakes. We cannot be successful if we're not generous. We cannot be successful if we don't listen to people, if we don't show interest, if we don't, ask questions and, show them that we are listening. So there are a lot of things that we have to do, but if we want to be successful, we have to be taking mistakes. And I think that's one of the really, core to my success, is that I tell everybody about all my, mistakes and failures. And that's what make them believe in me, because they feel like I'm a real person. I show it as it is, and I've done mistakes, and I can share them, and I can take the mistake and learn from it. That's development.
In one of the interviews I was a guest on, I was asked, what is the biggest failure that you had in your career? And I got stuck. I was like, I didn't have any failures, and I felt so wrong in that moment, because I didn't fit the question at all. And I was like, okay, here it was a mistake, but I've learned this and that from that, so that's not a failure for me. And I analyzed a lot and reflected a lot on that afterwards, that really the only failure for me is really not trying, or becoming the victim of what's coming out, instead of really seeing, okay, how can I avoid it? How can I do it better next time?
Yeah, I think also it's a choice. You can choose to see things as failures, but you can also see things not as failures, but mistakes. With the information and the knowledge that I had then, I took this decision. But if I would have taken the same decision today, then that would have been really wrong. But we cannot blame ourselves. Like, if it was today, when it was a long time ago, when we didn't have all that experience.
Mm.
So of course we all have made a decision that turned out to be wrong, but also we have to taken decisions that we didn't know and ended up really well. So yeah, it's a little bit of both, I think.
It's great to put this in
But sometimes it's
perspective.
good to be interviewed, because then you have to try, to answer. And
Mm.
if you haven't been interviewed for a while, then it's like, oh, you're a little bit, in Swedish we would say ring rosti, I don't know the English word.
Yeah, a bit
You're like
rusted, yeah.
rusted, yeah. So
Rusty, yeah.
it's important to, like now, you can hear that I'm from Sweden. I don't have this English like sound, but that's okay. It's better to talk a little bit bad English and try to give the things that you have learned, because that's my why. I want to share what I have to the people that wants it.
Mm. That's something that I wanted to ask you as well. You have several companies and you are a very value-driven person. So what is your biggest mission in your life?
I think my biggest mission is to give away the things that I have to people that needs and wants it, I would say. My most important value is generosity. And for me in life, it's like to have the best life I can have in forms of giving, because that's what's make you feeling that there are meaningfulness and there is hope in life. But also I really like to njuta. What's the word in
Enjoy.
English? Enjoy life. So I eat a lot of chocolate and I surround myself with people that are, wanting to do good, that are, important to me. And if I haven't felt that I have been giving, then something's wrong with that day.
Mm. Okay, but that day. And then it goes in the reflection book.
Yeah, and that's okay. And also because I've been doing this reflection for so long, some days I just write what I need help with. Another day, only what was good. A third day, if I have this like pity party, I'm just writing down what I'm grateful for. So I use it as a way of, it's like when you have exercise. If I feel I'm strong in my leg, then I need to exercise my arms. So it's the same thing. I take responsibility for exercising the things that I need to exercise. And again, that's not always the things that I want, because my ego is quite huge. So I have sometimes, I have to put my ego aside, and it's like, this is my ego speaking. But then you have to know, you have to have, self knowledge, and then, know what's happening with me. Is this like true? Or is this just like I'm trying to run away from something? So you have to like check in with yourself and see, where am I now?
Definitely. And it's a practice. It's not like you get
Yeah.
good at that and then you're good for forever. It is the fresh the
Yeah.
skill, right? The skill. So that's important to remember. And I want to circle back to one of the things that you said when I asked you about what the leaders, your clients, are struggling most with.
Yes.
That at some point that some leaders are kind of self-learned, so they don't have the official education, for example, and for them the challenge is to kind of download their brain and explain the others how to do the things and so on, or how they succeeded. I see it a lot in high performers, in those achievers, right? That a lot of them feeling this kind of imposter syndrome, or feeling like, okay, I also need this certification and then I will become confident, or I also need to go and do this master degree and then I will be able to do this, and then so on and so forth. You have come the other way, right? You started coaching clients at the dinner table, or you were doing the meals,
as
right?
a hobby.
And you were just, exactly. And then it grew from that to being one of the best leadership coaches and executive coaches in Sweden, being the top performer and the presenters and so on. You're getting awards and you are being bestseller author in Sweden and in other countries. So how was your journey there? And from that journey, what you would recommend to those people who are suffering from imposter syndrome?
What I would say is, like, my life had a little bit of wrong turn, and that's why I didn't go to the university, but because I ended up in a negative spiral, and I was using drugs and everything. And then I got sober and went to rehab, and then it started. And then I was like, uh, of course I would have been able to go to the university, but I owed too much people too much money. So I was like, no, you have to get your shit together and, make amends to all the things that you have. So I started to work and reading books, and I went to courses and different. So you can educate yourself in different kinds of way. So I've been doing that all the time, and I've also always had mentors that could teach me. So that my strong thing is that I can ask for help. So I surround myself with smart people that are professors or psychologists, and I call them and I like, hi, this is me, I have a question. But I think my success is that I'm honestly and 100% interested in the people I meet. I don't have any other interests. Before I was pretending that I had, but now I'm so old and after the menopause, you stop lying. Then you're like, this is me, take me as I am. I'm not more interesting than this. So the thing is that I have continued, to get new information and everything, and also attend a lot of courses, seminars, and have a lot of people that I learn from. But this wasn't like I didn't have this planned. I had real work when I was working with economics and also was in charge of the HR on that firm. But my hobby, teaching, coaching people, because the rumors were spread. They're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm exercising self-leadership and leadership. And they're like, can you teach me how? I'm like, yeah. So it just grew of itself, of course. But when I hire people that are working as coaches with me, a lot of them have, opposites of me, because I need to have diversity. So I would say, like, we are stuck with what we have, make the best of it. Because one thing that can be, if you have too many educations and, sometimes it's what it calls
it prevents you or kind of limits you in a way.
Yeah, because you're not, you are always in your head, because this is supposed to be. Some people that had attended coaching seminars, they're like, oh, you're not supposed to ask the question why, and you're like, oh yeah, you are. That's the most common question. It depends on how you ask. If I ask you why, then of course you're going to feel like what she's, after. But if I ask you, oh, what interesting, what led up to that decision, then it's going to be interesting and a conversation. And sometimes I think like people are like reading and they don't, translate it into practicism. So they have a lot of knowledge, but they don't have the know-how. So you have to know what is my strong side, and give yourself the ability to develop the other side. So, of course, my history and my way in this is like, a little bit different. So it's really important to get inspired when you see me, but don't compare yourself with me.
Yeah, and I love what you're teaching about the comparison that you just said, the point, the dot.
Yes,
in the end, right?
Because we are programmed to compare ourselves with everybody we meet, but our brain is like designed for a time like 20,000 years ago. And now, then we met like 100 or 150 people through a lifetime. Now we meet like 1 million. And of course, it's going to affect our sense or feeling of self-esteem if we compare ourselves with everybody we meet. So basic self-leadership is to, put the dot or the stop in the head when we see others, like, oh, she's so brilliant, stop. Oh, she's so funny, stop. Or in Swedish we say dot. It depends. So you take whatever you want. But we have to exercise that, because otherwise we're going to lose self-esteem just attending social media, because every day people are showing how successful they are, how much money they make, how well trained their children are. And if somebody's making, okay, of course they put a picture of it. And we are intelligent. We know that people are exaggerating. We know that they even lie, but our brain is like really, really old and haven't been updated. So it's going to forget when we are scrolling. So we have a responsibility for give ourselves the things that we need to be really, good in this time of life.
Yeah, definitely. Part of my self-development journey from listening to you and talk about those things several years ago was to, and now I do quote unquote, clean up my social media. So whom I'm following.
Yeah.
If I have some friends whom I unfollowed and I still want to see what's going on in their life, but I want to do it on my terms. So when I feel
Yes.
like, okay, today I'm good, I
Mm.
can go on Mia's page and check how is she going and doing. But
Yeah.
I don't follow her so that she pops up in my feed necessarily when I have a bad or like a bad day, or when I'm vulnerable, right?
Vulnerable.
That's the same when I have those days. Now with the self-leadership development, it's easier to understand, okay, now I feel like crap. I'd rather go for a
Exactly.
walk instead of
Yeah.
sitting and scrolling on Instagram, because I know that Instagram will
Exactly.
not make me feel better.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
also
super
that's
important.
why, because it's like it's going to be, we have to take charge of our, technical, help, things that we have, the phone, whatever. They're not going to be in charge of us. We are in charge. We're going to decide. And also, I don't read emails late at night, because you don't know what's going to come and you have it all the night. And also, as soon as a person in my, do you say flood? What do you say?
Feed.
Fleet, yeah, is something that I'm directly just put them away,
Mm,
because I'm in charge of me. And sometimes, like, then I'm gonna, oh, what happened to her? Then I can go in and look, or him, or whatever. So
mm,
we have to give ourselves the things that we need to be as, secure and in a good energy as we can, because life sucks on a regular basis.
yeah.
And it's not fair, and shit happens all the time. So we have to be strong the next time. That's the only thing we can actually affect.
Mm,
In what state I'm going to be the next time life sucks. Who do I want to be after this, pandemic? And also, how, strong do I want to be the next time something's happened? So that's in our power.
Exactly. And I've heard some people, when I shared with some people that I'm not reading news, for example, and when I say that I'm very selective on the social media whom I'm following, people are like, oh, but then you live in your bubble. And it's like, I get out of my bubble on a constant basis, but there are areas in my life when I do need to have this bubble to recharge myself, because I'm giving so much to my clients, to my community, and so on. I need some space where I can just take. And then when I go on
Yeah.
Instagram, I actually, from my feed, I do get energy, inspiration, knowledge, and I'm not getting any negative emotions. And that's my bubble. And I
Yeah,
think it's
but also
totally
I
okay
think
to have it.
this, when people say things like that, because you didn't ask them, and what do you think about that? So sometimes we shouldn't listen so much, because people are like talking about themselves. That's why when you are saying like, I'm going to start my own company, and somebody said like, but you cannot do that. That's not secure. They are not actually talking about you. They are talking about themselves. When we say, I'm going to have a divorce, then they're like, oh, you cannot divorce. Yes, I can. But they are talking about their own situation. And maybe they were thinking about it and they said to themselves, I cannot do that. So we shouldn't listen so much when people are saying, if they asked you a question like, oh, but how is that? Doesn't you feel like you don't know what's going on out there? But we are different, and social media gives energy to a lot of people, and then they use them for that. But people that feeling like they took something from me, then it's not positive. So is it like, it's easy to ask, did this give energy or take energy? Then I know what I need.
Yeah, it's super important to reflect on those things.
Yes.
So two quick questions more. No, not quick, maybe. One of them is, two of your last books take space with responsibility and generosity, and the other one is vulnerable and super strong, which you launched this year. Those are very strong value words, and I would love to know, why are you choosing those words, and why do you think they're so important?
That's the whole meaning of me. I got a second chance in life, and I'm humbled because not everybody got this opportunity. So I'm not going to waste my own, like, meaning things. So for me, the values are really important, not just the value, but actually live as I teach, live as I speak, walk the talk. So for me, generosity is what we need, because we have a time that a lot of people like me, myself, and I see that's the end of everything. I think it's really important that we, help each other, and we give and we do things together. That's the first one. The other one actually was something that happened when 5 years ago, I decided to end the relation with my mother, father, and sister of different reasons. And actually, I become even more honest about myself, and also what was important for me. So like 5 years ago, I really understood the importance of being brave enough to be vulnerable, and that's the way to be really strong. So I have a layer, you can say, of shame and guilt that I needed to work on. So actually, I'm writing about things that are like important to me, but I wrote this book 5 years after I have ended the relations, when I know what I'm not in the middle of the process. Like, I'm healed now. It's you know it's a sad thing, but I have accepted it, and I don't go around wishing for another outcome. This is the way it was for me, and I'm content with the work I've done, with the decision I took, with who I am, because now I am 100% myself. Before, I always had to, because they have, sometimes I say what I had with me from home was, I had the confidence because they said you can be whatever you want, but I also say the worst thing if you embarrass us. So I got the confidence and the shame. So what I really did, it was through a lot of years gave myself the self-worth, but also I got rid of all the remaining shame, and that's through vulnerability training, you can say. So this is my why. This is what's important for real for me, and that's the only thing I want to be in. But also I can do silly things and look like for have the Netflix marathon, and I don't always sit and read and everything. I enjoy life, I really do, but when I work, I want it to be meaningful, and the decisions I take, I want them to be mine.
And you're very, very generous, that we all know that you're doing some voluntary work, right? It's a third of your time that you're spending for helping the others who don't have the as good conditions as you in life. So it's beautiful that to see how you actually live your values and show by the example. Mia, last question is, what are 3 pieces of advice of yours for our listeners for them to become the genius leaders that they can be?
Never stop learn. Never stop being interested in the other people. Everybody you meet can learn, can teach you something. So see everything as a meaning of something. Listen to people, ask questions, be interested in them. Then you have everything that you have. And also, of course, take responsibility for your self-leadership. But otherwise, see the people you are meeting, listen to them, ask questions, be interested in them, because they teach you. And it's
genius.
never going to be good to be perfect. So we try, and we make funny stories of the mistakes that we do, but we don't see them as failures.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Mia, for the conversation. And I would love to get to know for people, where can they find you, whether they know Swedish or not?
Yeah, I have, you can write it maybe but my email address is mia@mtledarskap.se, and Mia Törnblom on Instagram.
And there you're mainly in Swedish, but I'm pretty sure people will want to have more of you in English. So let's see how we could fix that.
Let's hope that they want to translate my books to English.
Some of them are
they have
already,
in other
right?
countries, but not in England and the States, unfortunately.
We'll work on that maybe.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mia, for this beautiful conversation.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Gud vad bra, för snart dör mitt batteri. Den kom upp som en sån, så det var perfekt.